Hey, what's up guys? This is Sales Samurai here, and today we're going to be talking about NLP, which stands for Neuro-linguistic Programming, and sales. So basically the agenda, I'll break it down. First I'm going to describe to you what NLP is, if you haven't heard of it before, and then my personal experience with NLP, and how does NLP relate specifically to sales, because this show is dedicated to sales, so we want to know what is the relationship between the two. And then I'll go into some specific techniques that you can utilize in sales that come from NLP. And basically this will be broken down into bronze, silver, and gold technique, and those levels are based on how easy it is for you to be able to do those, but ultimately the more time investment that's required, the better payoff that you actually get. So what exactly is NLP? NLP is a form of psychotherapy that was created in the 1970s by Richard Bandler and John Grinder. They were a psychologist and a linguist, and they got together in the University of California, and Bandler was actually working on improving some aspects of psychotherapy off the Gestalt therapy method, and particularly refining the areas with language. And he met John Grinder, and they actually created a new form of psychotherapy, which they argued that worked much faster than other forms of psychoanalysis and psychotherapy, such as Gestalt therapy, and it really took off in the 70s and 80s. So in a nutshell, if I describe to you what exactly is NLP, it's really about managing your personal emotional state, which is very advantageous because often we're on autopilot. Things happen to us, we feel a certain way. Sometimes we just can't control how we feel. So it's about being able to control your feelings and get into the right state at the appropriate moment. So it's being able to manage that and understand that, and ultimately to also understand other people's emotional state and how to manage that, but more so your own. This was really popularized by Anthony Robbins. So I'm sure most of you have been on late night infomercials in the 80s and 90s, if you've been around then, and turned on the TV and you saw Tony Robbins and had your impression about him, and I definitely actually had my impressions about Tony Robbins. I thought his stuff was pretty cheesy at first, until I actually started to dig into his actual material and realized that there's actually a lot of substance to what he said, which is based off of NLP, a much more sort of user-friendly version of that. So what has been my experience with NLP? So when I decided to enter the world of sales, I was a computer programmer, and I decided that I was interested in sales, but there was definitely some hurdles that I thought that would be problems for me. For one, in sales you can't take things personally. You have to be able to take a lot of rejection and opposition and let it roll off your back, and that was something that I had a lot of trouble with. I wasn't necessarily the most introverted programmer, but I definitely took things very personal. I took a lot of things with wore my heart on my sleeve, so I really felt that if I was doing certain things that if people were rejecting, really they're rejecting me, but really they're just rejecting my ideas. And it was really hard for me to sort of dissect my emotions from the things I did, because I thought of myself to be very sincere and to put my heart out into a lot of things that I do. But that was one of the biggest things that I thought would be a hurdle for me in sales, and it was, and I did have to train myself otherwise. But I stumbled upon NLP by accident. I was actually at the library, and I've always been an avid reader. I've always read a lot of non-fictional work, and always jump from one topic to the next. And I saw the Personal Power book by Anthony Robbins. It was in the bargain bin area of the library, so I got it for about $1. So I thought, I can't go wrong. At the very least, I'm just going to laugh at it, and it'll actually strengthen my position on what I feel on things. And so, I just thought, let's give it a go. And as I opened it up and started reading it, I actually started to realize there was a lot of great content about how the brain works and how we can train ourselves. So ultimately, what it showed me was that any behavior that I want to be able to output, it could be trained. And this could relate to sales, this could relate to athletics, it could relate to any aspect in my life that I want to be able to understand how to perform better and be in better emotional states and manage those emotional states simply by looking at people who have, what I want, and breaking down, the steps that they do to get into those emotional states. But it really showed me that our emotions and being able to program that and how we respond to things, can be adjusted, with certain training and discipline and the right tools. So how exactly does NLP relate to sales? So we all know that the sales world can be tough, right? That's what stops a lot of people from doing it. It can be a great world. It can be very financially rewarding. It can also be, a very interesting world, but we know it's a tough world out there. You live in the world of no. You always hear the word no. There's constant rejection. No, we don't like your product. No, we are not ready to move forward this quarter. No, we are going with the competitor. No, we don't like you. I mean, they usually don't say that, but that could be the case. You're always hearing the word no, and a salesperson is a professional yes-sayer. So being able to manage your emotional state can be very key, because it's very easy to get sucked in by that negativity that's all around you and be influenced by that, and not to really damper your motivation, damper your enthusiasm, and not allow you to take action because you're afraid. So being able to manage that and maintain a strong frame is very, very important. And what I found interesting was that I had done a lot of sales training with a lot of different organizations and learned everything from spin selling, PSS, professional sales skills, selling to different personality types. And I never heard anything or saw any training in regards to NLP, which I found interesting because I could see a lot of the technique, classical sales technique, had a lot of embedded NLP in there, without actually having the techniques actually explicitly explained in terms of the theory and connecting with NLP. But there definitely was some relationship there that I could see. So, basically it came down to that it's just about managing my state and being able to maintain a strong frame was a big influence in helping me be successful in sales. And I actually repeat it to probably be the biggest thing in terms of being able to do sales and enjoy that process. So I'm now going to go into some different techniques broken down into a bronze, silver, and gold level. And these are just labels that I made up myself. And basically, they're rated on these different levels because there's different level of time investment that's required. So on a bronze level, you can pretty much do immediately. Where a gold level, you need to take, some time to be able to do that. At least probably 10 minutes to do some of these exercises. But the more time you put into it, the more of a return on investment you get on these. So this is also a way for you to ascertain, if some of these things are useful for you. You try out the bronze level technique, try out the silver technique, and then try out the gold technique and see how that works for you. So what's an example of a bronze technique? So an example of a bronze technique would be management of your own body language. So often when we feel a certain way, it reflects in our body language, right? There's always a correlation between the two. It's a mind and body connection. So when I'm confident, when I'm excited, you can hear it in my voice. I'll stand up straight. There'll be strength in my facial expressions, which you can't obviously see here, but there's all these expressions and a certain physiology that actually coincides with that. My body will actually coincide, physiologically in a certain way. My breathing will coincide in a certain way. So there's a relationship between the two. But say if I was depressed, there will also be a physiology that's related with that. The first thing that will change is the way I breathe. So particularly on the way I breathe, if I was depressed, or anyone who's depressed, they tend to breathe in a more shallow manner, higher up in their lungs as opposed to deep in their diaphragm. Their facial expressions become flaccid, very relaxed. There's not a sense of energy in their face. Their shoulders will slump, their posture will slump. All those things will happen in reciprocation with when people feel a certain way. So, if you're trying to modify your state, something bad just happened, you lost a deal, you got off a bad cold call, it's very, difficult just to slap someone on the back and say, hey, you know what, cheer up, feel better, because you feel a certain way because in your mind, you're interpreting that event to mean something, and you just can't change the interpretation like that. I mean, most people are not idiots. I mean, for the most part, we feel the things we do for a reason because we've interpreted, a certain meaning and attachment to that. And that needs to change, and that's more going to the silver technique, but you can't do that right away. You might have your day to go on with, you might have a bad call, you might have gotten bad news, but you still have to go on with your day and focus on, okay, let's focus on that next meeting. So how do you do that? So the silver technique helps you to do that and being able to modify your body language. So being able to change the representation of what that means in terms of that event, that takes a little bit more investment, but there's nothing that stops you from being able to change the attributes of how you feel. So as an example, when you are depressed, you get that bad news, your breathing will change. And your posture will slump, your face, muscles will probably get more flaccid and more relaxed. But, the first thing that you can do is change your breathing. When you become depressed or sad, change your breathing from a higher place in your lungs to a lower place in your lungs. Stand up straight, and I guarantee you will actually start to feel a little bit better because those chemicals actually start to release in your body, and it confuses your mind. Your body mind and body has a hard time feeling depressed because you're controlling the resulting output of feeling a certain way. So a good example of this is particularly in cold calling. When I was learning cold calling, one of my first sales trainers, he always drill it into me, smile when you're on the phone, sit up straight, even stand up, because that's all the body language of a strong and confident person. So when you're getting objections, when you're having people be rude to you, it's very hard to feel rejected because you are in the posture and you're in having the body language of someone who's strong and confident. So it helps you maintain that frame. So moving on to a silver technique. So the bronze technique was being able just to adjust immediately. You need to get on with your day. You need to focus, but ultimately you need to be able to reframe what that event means. Otherwise you will, for the most part, will return into that pattern of feeling when a certain thing happens. So when you lose that prospect, you probably will feel depressed again. And you can't always just change your body language. Obviously, you feel like your brain is telling you something that you're feeling a certain way because there's a certain pain associated with that. So you need to be able to reframe that process. So we all know this cliche about looking on the bright side, or the glass is half full versus half empty. We all know that, but it's easier said than done. We're often not given the tools to be able to reframe a process. And ultimately, it comes down to the questions that we ask ourselves. Our mind thinks in a level of questions. So when I say that, you're probably thinking, is that true or not? Well, exactly, because you just thought in a question. You evaluated that. The conscious mind works on the basis of asking questions. It disseminates information. It discriminates by asking questions and separating. Whereas the subconscious mind is much more accepting. It takes more statements. It doesn't evaluate in that sense. So we ask in terms of thinking questions, but it's all about asking the right questions to yourself. So, when you lose a deal, you might think, why can't I do this? And that's sort of assuming that you can't do it the way you say it to yourself. And the answer might come back, in your head is because you're a turkey. You're not cut out for this. Because you ask yourself a question and your mind will search its internal database to come up with the reasons for that question. So it's very important to make sure you focus on the right questions. And asking the right questions helps you reframe that process, seeing that negative circumstance actually be an opportunity in disguise. So here's a list of some problem-solving questions that I go through in any given opportunity, not crisis, but any opportunity to be able to look at, where is this actually a benefit to me? And this does not just apply to sales. This also applies to any aspect of my life. I apply these questions with a lot of discipline. And it does take more time. This is why it's a silver technique. You at least need to take 5 minutes to be able to sit down and write out these questions and write out the answers. But I guarantee you, when you have that as a statement, you can use that and refer that as a reminder to remind yourself as to where's the positive in all this. So, here are a list of some of the problem-solving questions. Number 1, what is great about this problem? That's looking at that opportunity, looking at where's the silver lining here. What's, what has this, given me an opportunity? So yeah, you lost that deal, but maybe you're not wasting your time with this, prospects anymore. You can move on to riper, more better deals. What's great about this problem? Yeah, you lost that deal, but you sharpened your pencil. You increased your product knowledge. You were better than you were before. There's always some sort of opportunity in that to be able to understand, what is the good in this situation. What is not perfect yet? That's specifically defining what exactly is a problem. Often when we get emotional, 3 other things come up in our head that have nothing to do with the problem, and we just become upset in a sort of wide way. But that says exactly what needs to be fixed. Say, okay, what is not perfect yet? I don't have the product knowledge or the industry knowledge to be able to sell this solution well. So you're very specific as to what exactly is a problem. What do you need to fix? And isolating that, not confusing it with different subjects. Number 3, what am I willing to do to make it the way I want? That's basically creating a list of action items of things that you're going to start doing to make it the way you want, based on how you answer the last question, what is not perfect yet. What am I no longer willing to do to make it the way I want? That's taking away things from your action items and say, okay, you know what, I'm not going to not cold call every day. I'm not going to, let prospects slide. Whatever that is, taking away things, behaviors that you're already doing, and eliminating that. And number 5, this is the most important question. How can I enjoy the process while making the necessary changes to make it the way I want? That is key, to be able to understand the process, that it needs to be an enjoyable process, because, sure, this might be an inconvenience at the time. You might have really won that deal. You might really want to get that appointment with that prospect, but you need to be able to enjoy the process to get it to the way you want. I really lived by this statement when I learned door-to-door cold calling when I was actually in copier sales, and I found it interesting that even very senior reps who used to do it and would come back to do it would find it to be a very daunting process, getting doors slammed in your face, people being rude to your face, and that being really hard. But one of the ways I made myself enjoy the process is that I thought of it more of just as a social event. I was just expanding upon my ability to project myself as a pretty good person, because I do think of myself as a pretty nice person, genuinely, and I think most people will agree with me. But really, just to enjoy the process, I thought, hey, this is just a party. I'm out there, and these are the same skills that if I was at a party, and that will help me. That if I want to be able to show people who I really am, this is what it's all about. So enjoying the process. It's obviously an inconvenience, but you need to focus on the joy of that to help you keep motivated and help you to reinforce that silver lining. So a goal technique. So again, goal technique, it's requires more of a time investment, but you have your ultimate payoff. So the bronze and silver techniques that I gave an example on, such as reframing and adjusting your body language, those are more reactive. Those are more situations happen to you, and how do you adjust your behavior. But an example of a goal technique would be more about changing how do you react in the first place. Not getting flustered when you lose a deal, not getting flustered when you get objections, to be able to program the optimal response in the first place. And visualization, which ties in with hypnosis, that is an example of a gold technique, which you're changing your initial response to reprogram yourself from the outset in a proactive manner rather a reactive manner. And so visualization is very key. So an example of that would be, for instance, if you want to be able to reduce your anxiety when doing cold calls, go through the process when you're going to sleep at night. Particularly at night, it helps because the subconscious is most active then, and the conscious mind, because it's tired, tends to be less discriminating on that process. The trouble with that is keeping awake, but anything that you're in a relaxed state, it helps to be able to do visualization or hypnosis. So even after a workout or something that where your body is relaxed, and go through the process when you're lying on your bed, or you can be sitting on a chair. Just close your eyes and visualize yourself going through that process of doing that cold call, smiling, enjoying that process, and getting the appointment, or going into that presentation, handling those objections, not being flustered by the tense situations, and being able to ultimately close that deal. And this is very, very powerful, because ultimately the mind can't tell the difference between what is imagined and what is real. So an example of this, the subconscious mind can be fooled very easily. When you go to sleep and you feel someone touch your arm, you actually feel that sensation of someone touching your arm, right? So it cannot tell the difference between the two. It feels very real, and ultimately begs the question as to what is really real. So when we're awake, are we really awake? I mean, that's a deeper question, looking at on a more philosophical level, something on the level of quantum physics, because that is an argument. What is actually really real? But the premises doesn't change, is that ultimately the subconscious mind cannot tell what is real and what is imagined. So to go through that process and walk through the process of how you ideally like to go through, you start to program your mind like you've done it before, and create certain patterns, neurological patterns to respond in that optimal response. So basically, what I talked about today is what is NLP, what has been my personal experience with NLP, and then on a broad level, what is the relationship between sales and NLP and how it helped me. And I gave you some specific examples broken down into bronze, silver, and gold technique. There's a lot of techniques that, for the sake of brevity of this episode, I don't have time to go into, such as mirroring, anchoring, and finding different personality types via the eye movements. But I just wanted to give you a bit of a taste as to how NLP can help you with sales and with your life. In future episodes, I'll get a little bit more specific on some other techniques and utilize that as a full segment. But for right now, I just want to be able to give you an idea that there are ways to program some of your sticking points in sales, utilizing psychology and utilizing hypnosis and some of these different techniques. So you can always check out Anthony Robbins' Personal Powers. If you go to the Sales Samurai website and look at the recommending books, you can find links to some of those books there, and those will be, of course, affiliate links, so that gets paid back to the Sales Samurai episodes and helping to fund this. But definitely check it out for further reading. But I will be talking further about this and into future episodes. So that's about it. Happy selling and happy studying about NLP. I'll see you later.